Hey, what is up, everyone? Welcome to the Crack House Chronicles. I am Donnie, your host, and with me is a man who has always been great at spelling bees, but terrible at spelling other words. It's Dale.
What's going on, man?
What's happening with you, dude?
Oh, man. Oh, just trying to stay dry in this damn all this rain.
Yeah, we've had just a little bit of rain.
It's been a damn rainy these last couple of days.
Is it going to tease us, or is it going to start raining?
I think it's, I don't know. I hope it don't start if this is a damn tease.
That's it.
Everything's underwater.
You got any shout-outs for us today, bud?
We got one. I just want to shout out to my buddy Tyler. He's been pushing us to do this episode for a long time.
Tyler.
So he listens every week. He's always on me about getting stuff, make sure we're getting stuff out, and while we're being slack. But, you know, we get it when we can. A little slack this week because I may or may not have been hungover for my birthday the other night, so we had to put it off an extra day. But we're getting it today, and we're going to get one out for Tyler. So today is for you, Tyler.
Tyler, this is for you, dude. All right, Dale, we're going to get into our episode. We're not going to mess around.
Let's rock it.
All right. We've got a serial killer this week that we're going to talk about, and this is a local for us.
Yeah, we've been we stayed local for a while, and then we jumped out a little bit, and then
skip around a little bit.
We come back home a little, well, right down the road a little bit.
Yeah, about 30, 40 miles down the road.
Yes.
And this is around Chesney, South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
Woodruff area.
Yeah, down near Sparkle City.
Yeah, Sparkle.
Yeah.
Spartanburg.
Spartanburg, or the Sparkle City.
Yep. And this is Todd Christopher Kohlhepp.
Kohlhepp.
Yep. He was born Todd Christopher Samsell.
Right.
On March the 7th, 1971 in Florida. But he was raised in South Carolina and in Georgia.
At the same time?
Well, not at the same time, but I guess over a period of time where he was during his raising years. Now
he was getting raised.
Yeah, he was getting raised.
Okay.
And his mom and dad divorced when he was 2 years old. And his mother got custody of him. And she married another man about a year later.
Right.
And this man, his name was Carl Kohlhepp. And he adopted Todd.
Yes, giving him
took his name.
His surname.
Yep. I think Carl had two other kids from a previous marriage, and they were step siblings to Todd.
Right.
Todd was troubled childhood.
Yeah, his stepdad used to beat the shit out of him all the time, I think.
Yeah. He was known to get aggressive in like nursery school and destroy, I guess, kids' toys and things like that.
Yeah, I figure it's one of those, if you didn't get my way, if you can't have it, I'm not going to have it either.
Yeah. And about the age of 9, that's when he started having counseling.
Yeah, it's pretty sad. Isn't it?
Yeah, he was described as being explosive and even preoccupied with sexual content.
That's awful early.
At a young age.
Yeah. You know, and that's when he started with his cruelty to animal thing. He's like shooting dogs with BB guns, and then even one time he wanted a gerbil, and they told him, well, you already have a goldfish, not getting a gerbil, so he just poured a bottle of Clorox in the goldfish and fixed that problem.
And watched it die.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if he ever got his gerbil.
I kind of doubt it.
Yeah, it's not good. You know, and a lot of serial killers start out with cruelty to animals and stuff, so they start there and work their way up.
Yep. And even Todd's father even told him that the only emotion that his son had was anger.
That's crazy.
The only emotion he was capable of was anger. No joy or happy or anything.
Well, you know, right off the bat, he's just getting beat all the time, and then you know, put down and don't get nothing he wants, and then blowing off, and then, you know, even I think bought him a new bedroom suit one time, and he didn't like it, so he just took a hammer and totally destroyed it.
Yeah. Todd spent about 3.5 months in a Georgia psychiatric hospital as an inpatient because he couldn't get along with other kids.
So this is really early.
Yeah.
Like 10 years old or something.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty sad, actually.
Yeah.
But I mean, damn, he must have been really destructive, you know, because if that's your only choice.
Yeah. And Todd had almost like a longing to get to know his biological father.
Well, I don't blame him. Well, you know, I mean, I guess for the beating part, I don't know what the rest of them going on, but he just probably felt like, you know, since he probably had a vision in his head of how it would be to be with his real dad.
Yeah.
You know, and probably thought his real dad wanted him as much as he wanted him.
Yeah. But in 1983, Todd was sent to live with his biological father in Arizona.
Right.
After his mom and stepfather separated.
So how'd that work out?
Well, he went to move in with his father, and he took his father's surname back. Went back to Samsel. and he started working a lot of little local jobs. And he also took interest in his father's hobby of collecting guns and weapons, and taught him to blow up things and make bombs.
Yeah. That's a good thing to teach a kid that just got out of psych ward.
And because even after all this, their relationship and everything deteriorated due to his father being absent all the time.
He'd rather be out running with the women than worry about this kid.
They said his father had a lot of girlfriends.
Yeah. And now he's got this kid cramping his style.
Yeah, and that's when Todd expressed, a desire to go live back with his mother.
Right. But she didn't want him either.
No.
So now you got this childhood rage that the only way you thought you could get out of it was go to your dad's, and you get to your dad's and he don't want you either, and now you can't go home.
Yeah. So he's got all kinds of things going on in his head probably. Mm-hmm. Now, as this time, Dale, on November the 25th of 1986, Todd was 15 years old, and he kidnapped a 14-year-old girl. That's when they lived in Tempe, Arizona. And I think they were a neighbor of theirs, like 3 houses down or something.
Yeah, and he really liked her, but she just wanted to be friends, and then she kind of said that she had a crush on another little boy.
That was a friend of him.
Mutual friend. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So that
was not good.
No, So this is when he kidnapped this 14-year-old girl, and he threatened her with a .22 caliber revolver.
Yep.
And he took her back to his home, tied her up, duct taped her mouth shut, and he raped her.
Yep. Several different ways.
Yeah. And after that,
he actually he shot the gun where he tried to, didn't he?
I think it did.
Misfired or something.
Misfired, yeah.
Which is kind of weird for a revolver, but yeah, so kind of saved her there.
Mm-hmm. After all this, he walked her home, and he threatened to kill her younger siblings if she told anyone about it.
Right. She had like 2 younger.
Yeah. She had younger.
They were really young. One was like 6 and one something else, I think. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, he threatened to kill them if she was to say anything.
Mm-hmm.
But luckily for her, time she got back home, wasn't long that the cops had showed up.
Yeah.
Because one of her younger siblings had actually called the cops and said that she was missing.
Yeah.
So, and then she went ahead and told what happened.
And Todd was charged with kidnapping, sexual assault, and committing a dangerous crime against children.
Yeah, so then went to his house, knocked on the door, he opened the door, had a gun in his hand.
And he was like...
All he wanted to know was how much trouble I am and how many years am I going to get.
Yeah, that's all he wanted to know.
No emotion, like you say. It's always just straight plain, which is really weird.
And just a year later, in 1987, he pled guilty to the kidnapping charge, and the other charges were dropped. And he was sentenced to 15 years in prison and registered as a sex offender.
Right.
And according to the court records, Todd was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. And he also had an IQ of 118, which is just
it's above average, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's another little... It's kind of weird how a lot of serial killers have high or above average IQs.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know about a bunch, but the last few we've done, that kind of stands out.
Yeah. And the judge in this case said Todd was very bright and should be advanced academically, but behaviorally and emotionally dangerous and likely could not be rehabilitated.
That ain't good.
No, and Todd's probation officer wrote a similar description in the court papers and added that he felt the world owed him something. And Todd's attorney later went on to say that while defending him, he did not believe his client would go on to harm others in the future.
Of course, the judge and everybody else did.
Yeah.
And basically, if the judge would have had his way, we wouldn't be talking about this guy today.
Mm-hmm. And even during his imprisonment, Dale, the first couple of years, he got into a lot of trouble.
Oh, well.
While in prison.
Well, so he's so young.
Yeah.
So he was 15 and he got sentenced for 15 years?
Yeah, but after 14, he got released. But I think that was for time served while, trial was going on. So he got a year knocked off, but he was still in jail during the trial. So I guess time served.
Yeah.
Now, it was in August of 2001. We're jumping ahead a little bit. Todd was released from prison after serving 14 years, like we said. And he moved to South Carolina, where his mother was living.
Oh.
Imagine that.
Welcome home.
Yep. And Dale, during his time in prison, he attended and graduated from Central Arizona College with a bachelor's degree in computer science.
Oh, while he was in jail?
Yeah, while he was in prison.
Okay.
From January 2002 to November 2003, he worked as a graphic designer for Seven Sons, is a graphics company in Spartanburg.
Ooh.
And he began studying at the Greenville Technical College in 2003.
So he's pretty smart. He's gathering up some degrees here.
Yep. And he later transferred to the University of South Carolina Upstate the following year and graduated in 2008 with a bachelor's degree in business administration and marketing. So he's
piling them up.
Yeah, so he's getting some education.
Yeah.
Now, keep in mind, he was still a registered sex offender.
Well, I think so.
And despite being a sex offender, he was able to get a real estate license on June 30th, 2006.
So I'm assuming he was lying on some kind of application.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Because I'm pretty sure you can't do both of those.
No, and they obviously didn't do a background check.
Right.
He was able to build a firm and had several dozen in his employment. So he had a pretty big firm.
Yeah.
And he was even recognized as one of the top selling agents in South Carolina.
So he's stacking up some cash now.
Yeah. And also during all this time, Dale, he became a pilot. He got a pilot license.
Damn.
And owned several properties out of state.
So now he's mobile.
Yep. He's moving around. He's going all over the country.
So you think he's really straightened up? He's went to school after all that trouble, and he did his time. He got out and went to school, and he's got all these degrees and started his own business. He's got his own realty company. He's got a couple properties under his belt and got his airplane pilot license. So he's just an outstanding citizen right now.
Yep. And in May of 2014, he purchased nearly 100 acres of land in the community of Moore, South Carolina.
Yeah, it's a pretty big tract.
Yep, and it was for $305,000. And he put a fence around that property.
That's a cheap one, wasn't it?
Yeah, $80,000 fence.
$80,000 fence.
Wow.
That's a lot of fence, though, if you think about going around 100 acres.
Oh, yeah. And a customer who sold her home to Kohlhepp remembered him as extremely outgoing and professional, and even said that he would often talk about his firearms and sometimes made sexual innuendos during their conversations.
Yeah, I'm sure. So now he's getting some power under him. He's got some money,
But they said, when Todd was in his office, he would be condescending to all of his workers, and he would even go back in his office and watch porno on his computer.
Yeah. Y'all go do this. I got something to do.
Yeah. All right, Dale. We're going to go back in time just a little bit. And we're going to go back to November 6, 2003. And this was when a guy by the name of Noel Lee, he was a frequent customer of the Superbike Motorsports. And this was a motorcycle shop in Chesney, South Carolina.
Right.
Noel went in that day. He was taking, I think...
some event tickets. He had called from home. He had got home, and he was friends with everybody down there. And he had called ahead and said he was going to come by and drop off some event tickets for something going on at the Bilo Center, which is like the big arena in Greenville, South Carolina. And then he said it'd be about 30 minutes. He was going to jump in the shower, and then he talked to Beverly Guy, who was a bookkeeper there, and she said, "Come on down. We'll all be here. So just come on when you can." So he had hung up and then took a shower and then drove down there and said it was only about 30 minutes.
Yeah, but when Noel Lee got there, Dale...
They was over there.
Yeah, they were there, but he found them all dead.
Yep.
When he first got there, he found Scott Ponder, who was the owner of the Superbike Motorsports shop. He was 30 years old. He found him dead in the parking lot.
Yep.
Along with service manager Brian Lucas.
Yep.
They were in the parking lot.
Both shot to death.
Yep.
And Brian was more like in the doorway, half in the shop, half out, I think.
And I think I read, too, at first he thought they were pulling a prank on him.
Yeah, he didn't know what was going on.
Mm-mm. They thought he was...
Till he seen the blood, and then he's like, oh.
Yep. And he went in and used the phone there in the shop.
Yeah.
To call 911.
Which is kind of weird.
And we've got that 911 call right here.
Where's your emergency?
It's at Superbike Motorsports.
Okay, what's the problem?
Apparently everybody's been shot up here. Everybody's laying down in a pool of blood. His mama's been shot, the mechanic's been shot, and the owner.
Yeah, and I think they did question him because he had a cell phone, So why did you use that? But
I guess he used the phone there at the shop.
Yeah, because you basically would have to step over a body to go in.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, I'm sure he didn't know what the hell was going on.
And also, mechanic Chris Sherbert, he was in the back.
Yep.
He had been shot, and he was actually slumped over one of the motorcycles.
Yeah, he had been working on it.
And
this is a pretty good sized building. It's like a 10,000 square foot building, so in partitioned off, like with the showroom, and then offices and bathrooms kind of in the middle, and then in the back was the garage where they worked on all the bikes.
Yep. And also murdered was, like Dale said, bookkeeper Beverly Guy, and she was Scott Ponder's mother.
Right.
And she was 52.
Yep.
And all 4 died with multiple gunshot wounds.
Yep.
But investigators believe that the gunman, armed with a pistol, entered the shop from the back and killed Chris Sherbert as he worked. They thought they killed him first.
Yep.
And then went in and killed Beverly Guy coming out of the restroom, I think. And then that's when it's been reported that Scott Ponder and Brian Lucas were trying to get out of the building, and he shot both of them.
Yep.
As they were leaving the building. They had no leads on this, Dale. They didn't know.
Didn't know nothing.
No, this was 2003, and they didn't have a clue on who could have done this. They thought it was Noel Lee at first.
Yeah, because they thought maybe that phone call that he had made to see if everybody's going to be there was maybe he was calling to make sure whoever he was going to kill was going to be there.
Yep, and they even thought it might have been drug related, but they found some cash there on the counter.
Yeah, the bullet full. Because I don't know how long at this point this place had been in operation, but it was a very successful business. Even in his first year open, he had like over $1 million in sales, and it had went up from there on out. Mm-hmm. So there was plenty of money and stuff and guns. And I think in the office there were some guns and stuff, and nothing was missing that they could see.
Yep. So they ruled it out as being drug related.
Right. Or a robbery.
Yep. So they were trying to find any lead from anybody or any kind of suspect, and even family members, they weren't above being, considered suspects.
Oh, no.
And also, Dale, there was a man and woman that was seen in the dealership about the time that the murders were taking place. But they were also known as drug users, but they were ruled out too.
Yeah, because, if it was them, that stack of money wouldn't be left.
They would, they took whatever they had.
Right.
And detectives looked into the lives of the victims, trying to find something that would lead
something
them
to explain
Yep.
What the hell's going on here.
And like Brian, Scott, and Beverly, they didn't have any bad blood between them or anyone else. They seemed to just be good, small town people.
Yeah. Well, Scott and Brian were best friends.
Yeah.
Scott started the business, and then him and Brian were very active in the two-wheel sport stuff, and they both knew it inside and out, and that's why he went ahead and hired his best friend as service manager, and that's why they were working together.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, the police, like we said, the police always examine the victim's spouse. And Melissa, this was Scott Ponder's widow.
Right.
She was no exception. And she was called into the police station several times in the following months. And there was one visit there where she had had a newborn son.
Yeah, 7-month-old.
Yeah. And she changed his diaper there in the police station. Well, they took that diaper out of the trash.
Yeah, without her knowing after
Yeah.
she left.
Yeah. And they took DNA samples from it. And Dale, a little while later, they called her back in.
Right. Well, she went in. She didn't really know why they were calling her in. She went in and she thought maybe that they had actually found a perpetrator. And she said that she was really nervous about going in because she was afraid that it might be somebody that they knew, and she just didn't know how she would handle that. Well, when she got there, that is not the reason they called her down there. They called her down there to tell her that the DNA from her child that they got from that testing that diaper did not match her husband Scott's DNA.
Yep.
And they're saying that baby's not his. So
Yep.
they were saying, so you got something to tell us? You have an affair with somebody else? Whose baby is this?
Exactly.
And running her through the mill, and she's like, there's no way. And they didn't really know whose it was, but they're saying it definitely was not his.
That's what they were saying.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so she went through a lot of stuff over that. Man.
Yeah. And she said some pretty bad words to him, too, from what I've read.
Yeah.
But
and then she went back down there again, and she said, I don't believe it. You're going to, if you wanted DNA, I would have given it to you. I haven't got nothing to hide. And made them swab the baby right there in front of them. She said, do it now and seal it, but do it in front of me.
Yeah.
I don't believe this. I don't know what the hell y'all doing here, but
let her see them swab
right
and seal it.
Yeah. And so they did, and they sent it off, and it came back, and it still didn't match.
It still didn't match.
So now she's starting to freak out a little bit. And
Yeah.
in one of her interviews, she said, that that actually she had to have some help from OBGYN to help get pregnant. So she's thinking, damn, is this really my baby? Did I get the wrong kid? Because I know I have not had an affair. I don't know what's going on here, but something is going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was at this point that she went ahead and lawyered up because she didn't know what the hell. She's like, I don't know why y'all trying to pull here, but this is not right.
But she'd had a call from one of the other police officers saying that she believed her story.
Well, she was when she got all upset when she's going to go talk to her lawyer, she was going to go have Scott exhumed.
Yeah,
and prove it right there. She said, something is wrong. I don't know what the hell y'all doing, but I'm going to go have him exhumed. And that's when she got the call from the one that said, just hang on. Let's see what's going on here. I believe you, but at least give me the chance to check into it. And if we're wrong, I will apologize to you. Yeah. So she gave them a little bit of time there. Yeah.
And what they done, they crossed Scott Ponder's DNA with Beverly Guy, his mother.
And it didn't match.
It didn't match. So they knew they had a mixed match somewhere.
Right. And I think all got this all started was Scott's ex-wife had told the police that she didn't think that baby was his either because they had tried a lot when they were married and they never could have a kid. Mm-hmm. So once they got that little bit of information and then this DNA didn't match, they were just full bore on this. So, but like you said, once they tried to match it up with his own mom, which, was no question, and still didn't match, they knew something was wrong, bad somewhere.
And just to clear one thing up, we've heard in several places that they accused her of having an affair with someone else. They told her who they thought it was.
Yeah, they had some pictures of one of the, it was a friend of the family, was a quite wealthy guy that had been at their house before, and it was just a picture of him and her hugging. But she says nothing, just he was a friend, close friend of the house or of the family, and they wanted to know who this guy was.
Yeah,
and she's like, "Come on, people, you gotta give me some credit. There's no way that this is his baby."
Yeah, but yeah, they never told her who they thought the baby was.
Yeah, they didn't know.
I actually heard her say that.
Yeah, I did too.
So she.
Yeah, they didn't come out and say, "Well, we know what so and so is because we matches their DNA." They didn't know.
Yeah. But they got it straightened out, and she was not considered a suspect anymore.
Right. So what had happened is when they checked the DNA was actually Brian Lucas's.
Yeah.
And whether it got cross-contaminated in the parking lot or in the lab or in the police results, we don't know and they don't know. But that's what had happened. So that DNA that they were trying to match to the baby was Brian Lucas's, and that's why it wasn't matching. But they were the two bodies were found pretty close to each other. So whether it was swabbed and put in a wrong name tube
or mislabeled or something,
mislabeled in the lab, it could have been anywhere. They don't know where it happened, but that's what it was. And she said that she did make the sheriff go on TV and apologize and say that it was wrong. He said because even though I was clear there, stuff happened. Like he said that Scott's grandmother had terminal cancer, and even she died before they got all this straightened out. And she died believing that wasn't her great-grandchild.
It caused a lot of problems for her.
And, and said even she, instead of leaving all her stuff and her land and whatever, all her stuff to
her inheritance
to the kid, she gave it to one of her sisters that she'd never even seen at all, So, and even Melissa said she didn't care about that material stuff, but it's just she died thinking that this wasn't really her grandchild.
Yeah,
which
that's sad.
It's a lot of stuff that, and especially they were just a lot of people in the neighborhood, and she said she was even felt like she was out of place at that funeral, because everybody was just looking at her like she had done something, and she
like an outcast. Yeah,
she was just been outcast. She didn't do anything.
Mm-hmm. Sure was sad.
Yeah, all because of somebody screwed up some lab results somewhere.
Exactly.
I think even at this point in the family, because they weren't coming up with anything, and it had been a long time, and they had hired a private investigator to come in and see, look at it with a fresh set of eyes, and they had already ruled out robbery and all that stuff,
or any family member,
and stuff, and they just couldn't find anything. And he came in and looked it over, and he said that he pretty much guaranteed it was probably a disgruntled customer. And he was saying, they should go back through the books and when, cross-reference with the customer names and crime records and this kind of stuff and see if he can find anybody that looks fishy, because it sure looked like maybe that would be the only reason in his mind that they could see that somebody would come in and kill everybody in the building and not take a thing.
Yeah.
Which makes a lot of sense.
Now, getting back to talking about Todd Kohlhepp a little bit, Dale, he went to this Waffle House that was in Roebuck, South Carolina. It was right near there where he was living.
Yep.
And he would go there quite a bit.
He went there a lot, and he was kind of creepy.
Yeah. And even one of the waitresses there, her name was Megan Coxey.
Yep.
Even when Todd would go in, she would have one of the other workers there take his order.
Yeah, she'd even have, because I guess if you don't know what a Waffle House is, it's just like a small diner where you sit there and you can see everything. There's no back kitchen. It's all cook them right there in front of you, and they just lean over the counter and give you stuff or whatever. But
which is great.
I see you got a Waffle House cup there, Doc. Right. So, it's probably a breakfast place, but you can get anything, and it's 365, 24/7. It never closes, and I don't even know if they got locks on the doors. They never close. But anyway, you go in, and they usually a lady will come over and take your order, and then they have a guy cooking, and they just take your order and turn around and basically yell into order, and I don't know how the heck they keep up with it, but they do a pretty good job of it. Anyways, they said that most of the girls, especially Megan, had really got the creeps from this guy, and he'd come in a lot, so it got to where even time he would come in, that the guy that was cooking would stop cooking and go over and take his order, so they didn't have to go talk to him.
Mm-hmm.
So it must be pretty damn creepy, because them Waffle House chicks have seen some wild stuff.
Oh, they see
3 or 4 o'clock in the morning.
They see everything coming and going in that place. But now Megan and her husband, Johnny Coxey, they were frequent drug users.
Yeah.
They had an addiction.
Yep, they had a problem.
But
one of the problems was they had no money.
Yeah. But Todd offered them a job to come to his property there in Moore, South Carolina, to do some work around the place.
Now, this is the 100-acre property, right?
Yeah, the 100-acre property.
He does have a house about 8 miles from his property, but it's I guess in a neighborhood or something. But so he don't live on this property. It's just basically a 100-acre wooded property, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And for them to trim bushes and different things.
Yeah, some underbrush. He did have a barn, and when I say barn, I'm not meaning like the old red barn that pops in your head. He has a pretty nice 2-story building, and it had solar power to it. There was no power on the property, but it had like a solar box and some other stuff to it. So it was a pretty nice building, and I think he wanted them to come in and trim up the underbrush and basically clean up around his buildings and stuff is what he wanted them to do.
Yep.
At least that's what he told them. Okay, so when they got on the property out there, his intentions was finally going to come out. He didn't really care about them cutting the underbrush or not.
They weren't going to trim nothing up, were they?
No. And later he would tell authorities that Johnny pulled a knife on him, but we don't believe none of this. So anyway, he just pulled his pistol and killed Johnny right there on the spot and shot him, 3 or 4 times in the chest. That's usually his MO. And once he killed him, he took Megan and locked her up. He had those big metal storage, like a container,
and big green storage metal containers.
Yeah, like you see on a semi truck, or like a stack up on a boat or whatever. Yeah, that kind of storage container. He had one of those, and it was kind of painted a little bit camouflage. Not really. It had some brown paint on it, but it was green, kind of set back in the woods a little bit from his other building. Mm-hmm. And really, what he had it for was he had it full of like rations and water and
ammo,
a ton of ammunition and stuff like that. But anyway, so what he did is once he killed Johnny, he took Megan and chained her up in that storage building.
Yeah.
And he kept her several days, but he said that she was a real mental case, and this is all coming from him. So, because really, I'm sure nobody really knows what happened, except just going by his account. That he took her in there, and told her, to chill out, and she was just being real bipolar and flipping out, and she'd be okay for a second and then go crazy. And he's like, just calm down. And
well, I wonder why you're being chained up.
Yeah, like I said, this is coming from him. So he left. He chained her up, and he left and went and got her some food. And he went and got her some Little Caesars pizza and some Dr. Pepper.
Yum.
Yeah, in which he said, quote, "I hate that shit." So anyway, that's apparently what she wanted. So he went and got her food and brought her back, and then I'm sure he done whatever he wanted to do to her. Details are kind of sketchy here, so I won't really say. And
because she's not here to talk about it,
right? Yeah, she can't say either way. So anyway, said that she wanted some cigarettes, so he went and bought her cigarettes. And a lot of this I'm saying has come from his interviews, and you can find those on YouTube. But he went and bought her some Newport Reds. Said he went in to get them. Said, I don't smoke, don't know nothing about it. So they asked me if I wanted a pack or a carton. I don't know. So he said, I bought her a carton. So I bought her that and a lighter and took it back and gave it to her. And
smoke up.
And chained her up and left. And he said the problem was that she was crazy. She would act all fine and stuff, and he was trying to figure out what to do with her the whole time. You know, he didn't want to kill her. He didn't know what to do. He had said that Johnny pulled a knife on him, and his story was that once they got there, they decided they was going to rob him. They had seen the guy that had a lot of money in a car they couldn't afford.
Yep.
Because they didn't have a car.
And they had a drug addiction.
They had a drug addiction, and his story is that Johnny pulled a knife on him, and they was both in on it, because it said that she didn't act like she was shocked or anything when did it. And he said once he pulled a knife on me, I put 2 in his chest and dropped him. Mm-hmm. So now, whether it happened or not, I highly doubt it, but that was his story. So anyway, he had said that what he was going to do was give her, he said he told her that I was going to give you $4,000, and I'm going to take you to somewhere in Tennessee and drop you out. You go right and I'll go left. That's what we're going to do. So she was pretty thrilled about, the thing that she might make it out of this alive. So a couple of days go by, and he said he would go over there, and then she would flipped out and setting stuff on fire. And she was setting stuff on fire inside that building. He said, I don't know how she didn't suffocate herself. I would open the door and just smoke boiling out of her. And you got to remember, this thing's slammed full of ammo. Yeah. So if it would have went off, it would have been a hell of a bomb. But anyway, he said he just finally, he couldn't figure out what to do, and he was going to do that. He said, but, at this time he's got a girlfriend, and the girlfriend's got a daughter. He just couldn't find a time. He said this is getting near wintertime. It was some bad weather, and he couldn't just find a time to make this long trip and let her go. So he was having to put her off for a couple of days. So he went back again another time, and she had set stuff on fire again. And he said finally he just had enough of it, so he just unbuckled her and told her, come on, it's time to go. And as soon as he walked outside, he shot her in the back of the head and put her in the tractor and took her down there and buried her on the property down there with Johnny.
Yep.
So that's what happened to her. And all that's from his side.
From his story, yeah. And it's probably pretty accurate, because Todd was pretty arrogant.
Yeah. And it's really creepy. If you listen to that, he just talks, and it's just like you buttered his bread or something. It ain't, I don't know, it's just, he's just so not really monotone, but straightforward. It's like, I don't know, it's just like telling you what I had for supper or something, you know?
Like it's just everyday conversation about the weather.
Right, yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty creepy.
So yeah, all this stuff going on with Megan Coxey and her husband Johnny, this went on around December the 22nd, 2015.
Right.
And Todd had reported killing them around Christmas time or the day after Christmas. So, that's just, like we said, from his point of view.
Well, that kind of goes along with the story where he couldn't get away,
Yeah.
Now, whether he was ever going to let her go or not, the way he said in his story, the reason that he was thinking about letting her go, first, he didn't really know what to do with her, but he was also saying, well, they only know I'm a real estate agent. They don't know my name. They don't know where I live, because I hadn't been to his house, just on that property. She didn't really know where that property was. So I could take her somewhere and drop her out, and there's no way that she would know, who I was, or she couldn't call and say so-and-so got me or whatever, or take them to my house.
Or even how to get back there.
Right. So that was in his head, that was an avenue to go until he, quote, said she pissed him off because she kept trying to burn shit up.
Yep. Now, Dale, almost a year later, this was in August the 31st of 2016, Kayla Brown and her boyfriend, Charlie Carver, they were hired by Todd Kohlhepp to do some work around the property.
Yeah, I think she had been introduced to him through another friend, and I'm thinking she had cleaned some properties for him, but they had only talked to each other really on Facebook.
Yeah.
So I don't think they really knew each other, but I'm not sure if she did some jobs before this one or not.
Cleaning some real estate property.
Yeah, I'm thinking she did, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, but they went back to Todd's property.
Yeah.
To do some work there.
And she said that, he had called and wanted them to go on a certain date. And she said that you could bring whoever you want to with you, And so she was going to take another friend because Charlie had to work. And so when he found out that Charlie had to work, he's like, well, we can just reschedule it for another time, Mm-hmm. So he intentionally made sure that it was going to be him and her that came on the same day.
Yeah.
Because he wanted him there.
Yep. And when they got there, Dale, it seemed like everything was pretty professional.
Yeah.
Todd was.
Except for the part where he pulled up to the fence and opened the gate and drove in and then got out and locked the gate back.
Yeah. But
Which is
other than that,
kinda-
they said everything was pretty professional. Todd was, talking business, what all they needed to do, and
Straightforward, like always.
Yep. But Kayla Brown and, like we said, and her boyfriend Charlie Carver, they went missing after they went to clean Todd's residence.
Yep. Well, after they pulled in and locked the gates, right, they drove down. She said they probably parked about 150 feet from the 2-story building that he had. And he told them, he described what he wanted them to do. He wanted them to go in and clean out some underbrush. And he went in the shed. He came out. He gave each of them a pair of hedge clippers and a bottle of water. And said, oh, hang on a second, I got to get one more thing. And he went back in the building. She said, I was just standing there holding Charlie's hand. We were just standing there. And that's when he came back out the door with the gun and shot Charlie in the chest 3 times.
Bam.
Just point blank.
Mm-hmm.
He got round behind her and put his arm around her like in a
Chokehold.
choke. Yep.
Yep.
And told her if she didn't want to be the same, if she fought or resisted, that she'd join Charlie.
Mm-hmm.
He took her inside and basically told her that he wasn't gonna kill her, he wasn't gonna rape her. He said, but she had to do what he said, or she'd join him. And
I think he had a fascination with
yeah, he did.
with her,
yeah,
with Kayla.
And he knew that the only way to get somebody to really take control of somebody is to take someone they love out,
Mm-hmm.
to make sure he was serious. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So then that's when he put handcuffs on her behind her back and put ankle cuffs on her.
And put her in the storage container.
Took her to the storage container, opened it up, walked all the way to the back, put a chain around her neck.
Like a dog.
Yep. Had her, it was like she said it was about a 3-foot chain hooked in one corner and then her ankle hooked to the other corner. So she couldn't really go nowhere except for on this little, whatever she had to lay on, if anything. And said that he left her there and left. And then come back in a couple hours and talk to her again.
Yeah, and he would feed her about once a day.
Yeah, once or twice. Said he would come about between 10 and 1 or something like that, and he would take her, unchain her, but he still left her handcuffed and stuff. But he would unchain her from the wall, take her out of the storage container, take her over to the 2-story building, and go upstairs. There was a bed up there, had chains hooked to it, and then he would feed her and then do whatever he wanted to sexually.
Yep.
And then take her and lock her back up.
And she pretty much, and she would tell him when she didn't want to do something, and he would almost respect that in a way, I guess.
Well, he told her, this is what he did. He told her that he didn't rape nobody. He wasn't going to rape her. If she said no, you can say no. He said, but he also made sure that she knew that she was there for a reason, and if she was no longer useful,
yeah,
then she would no longer be there.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
She probably didn't say no a whole lot.
Now, it was about this time, Kayla Brown and Charlie Carver's family, they got to be concerned.
Yeah, nobody had heard from them.
Nobody had heard anything from them. And all they were getting in return were Facebook messages.
They wasn't getting nothing for a while, and then all of a sudden they started popping up, I think.
Yeah, where
really weird
messages saying that they were happy, they had gotten married, and they bought a house, and they pretty much wanted to be left alone.
Yeah, some weird stuff.
Yeah, and it just didn't sound like anything Kayla or Charlie would do.
Right. And plus, I think it was Kayla's mom had found her beloved Pomeranian left at the house by itself, no food, no water, and it was in pretty bad shape when she found it.
That dog's name was Romeo.
Oh, Romeo.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that was her baby.
Yeah, so
Romeo.
they knew something was up. And it went so far, I'm not sure how long this went on, but I know her mom went and actually made sure rent was paid at the place. And eventually, after that, had went and taken the stuff out and put it in storage. Mm-hmm. So she was put up for a pretty good while.
Yeah, she was put up in that storage container for almost 2 months.
Damn. But then he would come that early in the morning, and then she said he'd come back again between 5 and 7 and feed her and take her to the barn and do what he wanted to do and put her back up.
Now, Dale, all these Facebook messages and Facebook posts, they were being done from Todd Kohlhepp's property.
Right.
So they got to tracing these messages.
Yeah, check the pings on the phone.
Oh, yep. Yeah. And they were coming from his property.
Yep.
And they got to staking it out. They even flew a helicopter over once or twice to see what the property looked like.
Well, it said that they had got a tip from somebody that said that girl was buried on a 100-acre property. And they got to searching around in that area, and there was only one plot of land that was that big. Mm-hmm. And it belonged to Todd Kohlhepp.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when they started checking around, and they actually flew a helicopter over, but they didn't see nothing. They were looking for his car. You know, he had a white, I think it was Pontiac Grand Am or Grand Prix or something. And they flew over the property, and they didn't see anything except for that big building. And
Yeah.
I don't know if they could see the storage shed or not because it was kind of camouflaged, but, you know, the big building was pretty, you know, it was cleared out a little bit in the middle of all them woods.
Yeah. And about 2 weeks later, that's when they get a search warrant for that property.
Yeah.
And they show up, and they're going around the property, and that's when they find that storage container, that storage locker.
Yeah, they actually got 2 warrants, one for his house and one for this property.
Yeah.
And their plan was to serve them both at the same time.
Show up at both properties at the same time.
They knew wherever they found him, they would hold him while they were searching the other.
Yeah. And when they get to that 100-acre property and they find that storage container, they're nosing around, and they hear some clanging coming from inside that storage container.
Yeah, I think they searched the big barn first and said they went upstairs, and when they seen that bed with the chains on it, they knew something was up.
Yeah.
And so they got to looking, but they didn't find anything in there, you know, nothing that was really out of the ordinary or whatever. And then when they seen the storage locker, they went over and was messing around it, and that's when they started hearing the bumping, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
And said and said one of the detectives went around the side and actually knocked on the side. When he knocked, they knocked back.
Yeah.
And that's when you could hear, you know, started making a bunch of noise, and they actually went back into Todd's own barn there and got some tools to cut it open.
Yeah.
It said it had
like a blowtorch to get into it.
Yeah, I think it had 5 locks on it. So
Yeah.
he knew something in there was pretty important.
Yeah.
So it was kind of odd. It had 5 different locks on it.
Mm-hmm.
So when they cut it open, went in there, and there she was chained up in the back of that thing.
Yeah. Dale, we've got that audio clip of her being rescued right here.
Okay, cool.
Yes. Pull that one first. All right, let them get ready. Y'all ready? Come on, guys. Back. Just jammed in here. Give me that crowbar back. Where's that? Sure. Get that big crowbar in. Right here. Oh, John. Put it out here. Yeah, behind there you go. Watch out. Y'all move. I got it. Watch out, boss. Back up.
Hey, Joey.
Sheriff's officer.
Sheriff's officer.
What?
Grab that.
Back up there.
Just one. Are you okay?
Grab what? Go.
Do you have any weapons? Coming through, okay?
What's your name? What's your name, man?
Lauren.
Okay.
All right.
Just a girl. Just a girl.
How are you, honey?
This is bolt cutters. This is our investigator. He's a paramedic.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we're gonna get you out of there. Okay.
Just hang loose for me.
Anybody got I need a handcuff key. Handcuff key. I got it right here.
Hold up. Y'all slide back. Hold on.
He's got a light. We got to let you take photographs. Randy, let me see your light, Randy. You can put your hands down, sweetheart. You're okay. We're here. Okay.
Yes, sir. Y'all sit back for me.
Light on or off?
You're fine. We'll get the rest of it here. Let's get her out of here.
We're getting bolt cutters, honey. Don't. You got pictures of the cuffs?
No, hold on.
Bolt cutters.
Is both feet?
Just one.
Let me
It's
see.
attached to a chain on the
Okay.
wall,
Okay.
and my neck's attached to the wall up here.
Okay. All right. We're gonna get you out, sweetheart. Okay.
You got a handcuff here.
I got one's in my car. I got one's under my car. Gloves on when I did that.
No big deal.
Bolt cutter.
No big deal.
Just hit the chain right there, loose.
Hold it up.
Just right there at her hand, Brandon. We'll get it off.
We'll get it off here. Cut it right here.
Do you know where your buddy is?
Charlie,
Yes.
he shot him.
He shot him.
Who
did?
Todd Kohlhepp shot Charlie Carver 3 times in the chest, wrapped him in a blue tarp, put him in the bucket of the tractor, locked me down here, and I never seen him again.
Okay.
He says he's dead and buried. He says there's several bodies dead and buried out here, and he says that the dogs will be ruined if they go looking because there's red pepper.
We're gonna step you out, sweet. Because there's what?
Red pepper.
Okay. Tell the dog people that.
He says
No,
there's pepper everywhere around the.
All right.
Man, that's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Don't you know? You know, I watched some.
And she, the tone of her voice, I mean, she is so calm and collected after being in there for 2 months.
Yeah. You know, well, because she didn't really have much to think about. Just trying to stay alive.
Yeah.
And she thought, you know, and said, you know, at first she always said that he had told her, don't say nothing. Don't be making a noise if you hear anything out here. Because if you do, I'll kill both of you, whoever's outside. And so when she first heard the noise outside, she was scared to say anything. And then she said she thought she heard somebody say, keep searching in her, or we got to find her, or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's when she said, to hell with it, I'm taking a chance and start beating on the things, because, you know, she was gagged too, so she couldn't say a whole lot of stuff. So she was beating on the walls and everything. And that's when, when she said as soon as the door cracked open and she seen the police uniforms, that's when she finally had a little bit of relief, because she was worried, is this a trick, and is he going to come in here and shoot me? Because, the whole time, really, he was trying to turn her. He wanted in his mind, he was going to get her to be his partner. He told her if she was good, he was going to eventually train her and she could be his partner. He thought if he kept her long enough that Stockholm Syndrome would kick in and she would just, come on over and be with him. Yeah. So he was kind of delusional into thinking eventually, they were going to be together. And I think that was his downfall. Luckily for her. Yeah,
and like we said, and if you listen to that clip, it said, she even said that, Charlie was killed and 2 others have been killed and buried on that property also.
Yep.
And
then the blockbuster.
Yep. She even told about him going into the superbiker shop.
Yep.
And killing 4 people there.
And said what was it, a couple of years back, he went in the motorcycle shop and killed 4 people and they don't know nothing.
Yeah. It was like 13 years earlier.
Yep.
And they didn't know anything.
So really, if this girl don't survive, they still never solved that.
Not the superbike, no. No.
None of it. So luckily he kept her for this long. I think, he was, like you said, really infatuated with this girl, and he really thought that, eventually they would be together.
And police did find 2 more bodies on Todd's property. It was 29-year-old Johnny Coxey and 26-year-old wife Megan Coxey.
Right.
And like I said, they had been reported missing since before Christmas of 2015.
Year, yeah. And they did find Charlie's car. He had, it was white, but he had covered it in some brown stain, and put bags of dog food in it and pushed it down in this ravine and covered up with brush, and he put dog food in it so animals would come in and tear up the inside of it so nothing would be.
That's smart. Yeah.
And all the bodies he buried, he covered in red pepper. So the dogs wouldn't be able to smell them, even if they're decomposing. They wouldn't be able to smell. They wouldn't. Nobody ever found them. He was the one who killed the people with the super bikes. He told his story. He had went there years ago and bought a bike, but he didn't really know how to ride. And he was trying to teach himself how to ride a bike, and it wasn't working out too good. So he said he went back down there about a week or so after that, and
he was a dork on a bike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he went back down there to talk to him to see if maybe he could, in his words, trade it for a small one, or maybe get him to take it back.
Yeah.
And they didn't really want to do that. So I think they kind of ridiculed him a little bit and laughed at him, then why are you buying a bike and you can't ride a bike and this kind of thing. Well,
they made fun of him.
They did, and made fun of him.
And it hurt his feelings.
It hurt him bad.
And all he knows how to do is be angry.
Yeah. So this ain't going to work out well. Mm-hmm. So a couple of days later, the bike gets, I'm air quoting, supposedly stolen from the front of his apartment house or whatever. Well, he kept going back down to the bike place and hanging out. He would go down there and look around, and I guess he's just casing the place the whole time. And he went down there on that one particular day and said that he had left college. He had stopped at the Walgreens, got out and put on his shoulder holster, put his gun in his shoulder holster, and went down to Superbikes. So he walked in, and there was a couple customers in there, he said, and one of the employees weren't there at the time. So he just looked around and browsed the shop and looked at different places and just waited until everybody was there. He said the collateral damage, he didn't want none of that, so he waited till all the paying customers had gone. The other employee had come back, so he picked out a 600 something Kawasaki or Suzuki Katana, whichever one that is. I'm sure. I'm sorry, I don't know. But anyway, told him he would take it. So they took it to the back there to start working on it to get it prepped to go. And when they took it to the back, said they were working on it, so he walked back out to the back. When the mechanic Chris sat down to start working on it, he said he drew his gun and shot him twice in the back. He shot him twice, once through each lung.
Yeah.
And he said, "Yep, that ought to take care of him." He said, when he wasn't moving, he said, because if you can shoot a man twice, once through each lung, and he gets up, I'd be impressed. That was what he said. So then he started making his way back toward the front of the building, and when he opened the door between the shop and the middle there where the offices was, That's when he run into all three of them. He run into Scott, Brian, and his mom. They were basically all right in front of him.
Yeah, Beverly was coming out of the restroom.
And he shot Beverly right there.
Mm-hmm.
Shot her twice. And then at this time, Brian and Scott take off running for the door. And so he just shoots. He just starts pulling the trigger. And he hit Brian in the back, and he dropped. He said, this time I tactically reloaded my gun. And that's why you'll find different shell casings. He said, so he reloaded. And went on and he shot Brian again and went out the door, and he shot Scott twice in the parking lot.
Running across the parking lot.
And he said he walked over him and he looked down and he shot him in the forehead to make sure he's dead. And he said, this time I went back through the scene and I shot each of them in the forehead to make sure they was all dead. He said, I cleared that building in 30 seconds. And he was really bragging to the police when he was saying all this.
Yeah,
he
the
said,
police. I mean, they were being buddies with him to get all this.
They were
out of him,
buddy
get
him
him to
up to talk all this. And he said,
yeah,
you guys have been proud of me. I cleared that. He said that was a big building. It was 10,000 square foot, and I cleared it in under 30 seconds.
He was so arrogant, man.
But that's what happened at Superbikes. And if this girl don't live, nobody ever knows.
Yeah, if Kayla hadn't been rescued,
it was a quadruple murder never solved.
Exactly. Now, getting to the legal proceedings and guilty pleas, Dale, Todd Kohlhepp was charged with 4 counts of murder in the Chesney Superbike shootings.
Right. And because when they, I said they had the 2 search warrants. While they were searching his property, they went to his house, and that's where he was. You know, and they went ahead and they just called over and told him, go ahead and hook him up. We got everything.
Yeah.
So they had him in custody right there.
Yep. And he was also charged on 1 count of kidnapping in relation to Kayla Brown's abduction. And he was later charged with 3 additional counts of murder in the murders of Charlie Carver and Megan Coxey, along with 1 additional count of kidnapping and 3 counts of possession of a weapon during the commission of a violent crime.
Mm-hmm.
And Todd Kohlhepp's next court appearance was January the 19th, 2017, where his attorney waived their right to appearance. So he didn't even show up. Now, according to a report, relatives of the Chesney shooting, this was the Superbike shop,
right?
They filed a wrongful death suit against him. And on December the 1st, it was announced that Kayla Brown also filed a civil lawsuit against him.
Well, I hope they got everything they did.
Yep. Now, on May the 26th, 2017, Todd pleaded guilty to 7 counts of murder, 2 counts of kidnapping, and 1 count of criminal sexual assault, and was sentenced to 7 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole, in a plea bargain that spared his life from the capital punishment.
Yeah. According to Scott's wife, they all got together and decided, if we sign off on this, then we know he's never getting out, and he's getting 7 counts. And if we try to give him the death penalty, then it's going to be appeals, and we'll be in court for the next 10 years, and we can do this now and it'll be done.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he agreed to some of this plea bargain, and there was something about a photograph that he was able to give to his mom, and some of the money.
Yeah, something about a horse, I think. The picture of a horse or something?
Yeah, I think it was.
Some art, I think.
Yeah, a piece of artwork. And there's also some money that was transferred to a friend's child's college fund.
Yeah, his girlfriend. He wanted to make sure some of the money was taken out and to give to his girlfriend to take care of that child.
Mm-hmm.
Now, whether she wanted to take it from him after she learned all this, I don't know. But he tried to do a couple things there. He wanted them to, and he said, if you do these couple things, then basically he took them and showed them where the bodies were on his property and some other stuff. So it was kind of a little trade out kind of thing.
Yeah.
But,
Now, Dale, it ain't funny, but it kind of is. Now, shortly after Todd's arrest, the Spartanburg County authorities discovered a number of kind of jokingly product reviews on Amazon. And it was like for various items such as padlocks, shovels, tasers, gun accessories, and a bunch of things like that. And it was by a user simply known as Me. And one of the reviews was about a padlock stated, "Solid locks, have 5 on a shipping container, won't stop them, but sure will slow them down until they get too old to care." And there's another one for a folding shovel that read, "Keep in car for when you have bodies to hide."
And you left your full-size shovel at home.
Yeah.
Does not come with a midget, which would have been nice.
Yep. And the reviewer's wish list page was listed as Todd Kohlhepp.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, now, he did say some stuff in his interrogation where he said he tried to spin it on Kayla, saying that, she was submissive and she wanted to have his permission to look at him and have his permission to do this. And he had actually bought a collar, some kind of a metal collar with the loops on the outside, because she really wanted a collar around her neck instead of having that chain.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, it can't beat Amazon Prime 2 days. But he never did put it on her. He said, I ain't put that on her because I wouldn't do that to my dog.
Yep.
What a piece of shit this dude is.
Yep. Now, on November 25th, 2016, police in Greer, South Carolina announced that they had named Todd Kohlhepp as a person of interest in an unsolved 2003 bank robbery and triple homicide at the local Blue Ridge Savings Bank. Now, Dale, this crime was separated from the Chesney shootings, which was the super bike shop, by 6 months. But as of May 16, 2018, no link between Todd Kohlhepp and the killings at the bank were established. But Todd did deny any involvement in the case. And
it just don't seem like it.
It doesn't seem
it's
like
not his MO.
Yeah.
Because, if he's robbery, he took all that money at the superbikes.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, he also did admit where he said that back when he was 14 years old, of killing a guy in Arizona. He said that he and a friend were walking out of an alley and some guy come up and shot his friend. And he said he didn't know the guy's name, but he knew he drove a gray Nova, and he hunted that guy down and killed him. And if that was true, that would have happened before he ever kidnapped that girl, know. So that's never been proven true, but that's something else he admitted to while being interrogated. So, but who knows if it's true or not. Earlier I'd said something about the investigator they hired, that he thought it was a disgruntled customer. And after all this come out, they found out that they never did go through that list, and Todd's name was on the customer list at the Superbikes. So if they would have went back then,
they would have found him. Yeah.
Now, I don't know if they could have proved he did it at that time, but his name was on the customer list, and so the investigator was dead on right there. But they never did go through it.
Yep.
As far as I know.
Now on April 23rd, 2017, Dale, Todd Kohlhepp's mother, Regina Ann Tague, was found deceased in her Moore home, South Carolina, and she had a long time illness. Yep. And the sheriff's office announced that there were no plans to have Todd see his mother's body before, or even attend the funeral.
Right.
August of just this year, Dale, 2020, some of Todd Kohlhepp's belongings went to auction and proceeds were donated to the victims' families.
Right.
Just this year. So, this is still going on. Stuff related to Todd Kohlhepp.
Well, I hope they get everything they can get.
Yep, me too. And that's pretty much...
where is he at, in Columbia?
Todd Kohlhepp is imprisoned at the Broad River Correctional Institute in Columbia, South Carolina.
That's
where he will remain the rest of his life.
Right.
And that's it. That's the story of Todd Kohlhepp.
Yeah, I guess that about wraps it up.
All right, Dale. We're going to get out of here.
All right, man.
We want everyone to be safe, be careful, and always be aware of your surroundings.
Because the next episode could be about you.
This is the Crack House Chronicles.